Our top stories for tonight. Syrian government forces enter the village of Ain al-Fija, taking control of a spring and pumping station that supplies most of the capital's water after a deal with rebel fighters. Donald Trump's sweeping ban on people seeking refuge in the United States and travelers from 7 Muslim-majority countries causes confusion and panic among travelers. And British Prime Minister Theresa May signs a $125 million defense equipment deal with Turkey, promising to push for more trade between the two NATO allies. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. The deep depression affecting Jordan brought snow of up to 20 centimeters in the southern regions of Tafila and Karak, where heavy snow clearing machines opened some blocked roads. Some areas that were hit by power outages had repair crews restore power. Mota University also announced its suspension of classes tomorrow. Karak's civil defense said it rescued about 200 pilgrims who were stranded by the blizzard on their way back from Umrah in Saudi Arabia. The main roads in the northern governorates of Ajloun and Jarash were also reopened to traffic after being cleared of snow, with the civil defense rescuing a number of stranded people. In Amman, all roads and tunnels remained accessible, but the Civil Defense Department rescued 155 people whose homes were flooded by the rising water. And due to the prevailing weather conditions affecting most regions of the kingdom, a Prime Ministry statement said ministries and public departments begin work tomorrow morning 1 hour later than regular, each department according to its own schedule. The announcement excludes those government entities that follow different work hours. The Syrian army entered the village of Ain al-Fija, where a major spring that provides most of the capital's water is located, as they continue an offensive to drive rebels from Wadi Barada Valley under their control since 2012. Syrian media said the army entered the village early today after reaching a deal for rebel fighters to withdraw. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said government forces began moving into the spring area as rebel fighters withdrew. Under the deal reached between the government side and local representatives, rebels from outside Wadi Barada area would leave for the northwestern province of Idlib, while rebels from Wadi Barada would be given the option to leave or stay. The Syrian government has struck similar local ceasefire deals with the opposition in several western parts of the country, involving the transfer of rebel fighters and their families to Idlib. To Iraq, and in a symbolic move after its win in eastern Mosul, Iraq's counterterrorism force, CTS, raised the Iraqi national flag and displayed its military might in the same district where Daesh self-proclaimed its caliphate over 2 years ago. Top commanders of the CTS were present during the ceremony, as well as a crowd of Iraqi nationals who cheered and sang as the flag was raised. A top Iraqi commander said the raising of the flag was a gesture of gratitude to those who sacrificed their lives among the armed forces. For residents of Mosul, it was a special moment, namely for those who lived under Daesh in the city. Meanwhile, a week after the recapture of Mosul, residents of the city returned to the site of the ancient tomb of Jonah to find much of it leveled to the ground. The tomb, traditionally believed to be the burial place of Nabi Yunus, is sacred to Muslims, Christians, and Jews. It was housed in a mosque in Mosul, which Daesh had looted and bombed when it captured the Mosul in 2014. U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order to curb immigration and refugee flows from some Muslim-majority countries. Trump halted the entry of travelers from Syria, Iraq, Iran, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen for at least 90 days, saying his administration needed time to develop more stringent screening procedures for refugees, immigrants, and other visitors. Arabs and Iranians planning trips to the U.S. described the new curbs as insulting and discriminatory, as 5 Iraqis and a Yemeni were stopped from boarding a New York-bound flight in Cairo today. Here are the details.
In the most sweeping use of his presidential power since taking office a week ago, Trump's executive order to pause the entry of travelers from Muslim countries went into effect immediately. This afternoon, 5 Iraqi passengers and 1 Yemeni were barred from boarding an Egypt Air flight from Cairo to New York despite holding valid immigration visas. In light of the order, Qatar Airways advised passengers bound for the United States from the banned countries they should have either a U.S. green card or diplomatic visa. But a spokeswoman for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security said people holding green cards are included in Trump's executive action temporarily. France and Germany voiced concern over Trump's decision, saying these new restrictions worried them.
Welcoming refugees who flee war and oppression is part of our duty. We must ensure it happens in a fair, correct way and also in solidarity. That's why European dialogue and European solidarity must continue to play a role, and that each nation must play its part so that societies fulfill their commitments and are faithful to our values.
The United States is a country where Christian traditions have an important meaning. Loving your neighbor is a major Christian value, and that includes helping people. I think that is what unites us in the West, and I think that is still a common foundation that we share with the United States, and we want to make that clear.
Civil rights groups condemned the measures as discriminatory and lead to stranding refugees in dangerous places and would tarnish the reputation of the United States as a land welcoming of immigrants. The American Civil Liberties Union said it has filed a suit challenging the executive order, and the Council on American Islamic Relations said it would follow suit. Local residents in the U.S., themselves refugees and immigrants from Arab countries, are disappointed that the country that had opened its arms to them is now banning others in need.
I'm for increased security. I'm for vetting processes that are legit. What I'm against is any racial profiling. I'm against judging based on the background. I'm for helping others and making this country secure.
Across the United States, protests continued after Trump's first full work week in public office, marked by one executive order after the next. Following his victory in November, Trump spoke of healing divisions, giving hope and some kind of reassurance for Americans who were apprehensive about his ascension to the Oval Office because of his ugly campaign rhetoric.
Now it's time for America to bind the wounds of division. We have to get together. To all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation, I say it is time for us to come together as one united people.
But a week into his presidency, a flurry of executive orders, a war declared by his team on the mainstream media, some of the largest protests ever held in the U.S., is defining the White House under Trump's tenure. Since World War II, the United States has been the world's leader in resettling refugees. The Trump administration has ended that era. Aliyatul Khan for the News at 10.
Meanwhile, the United Nations Refugee Agency, an international organization for migration, called on the United States to continue offering asylum to people fleeing war and persecution, saying its resettlement program was vital. In a joint statement, the two Geneva-based agencies said the needs of refugees and migrants worldwide have never been greater, and the U.S. resettlement program is one of the most important in the world. IOM and UNHCR said they remained committed to working with the U.S. administration towards a shared goal of ensuring safe and secure resettlement and immigration programs.
We've been willing and said throughout this whole last year that the IOM is happy to work with the U.S. government on coming up with policies or changes or adjustments that increase the security. We like migration to be legal, we like it to be safe, and we like it to be secure for all. And by all, we include the destination countries. We think refugees, asylum seekers, migrants of all kinds should never be defined by their nationality or their religion or their gender or their sexual preference. I mean, we understand there are issues involved with what's happening in some of these countries, but historically, danger does not come from refugees.
British Prime Minister Theresa May said after talks with Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan in Ankara that discussions dealt with a wide range of issues, including an early settlement to the Cyprus issue, as well as Syria, where she said the two countries are working together to fight Daesh and create the conditions for peace. May also said the two countries agreed to form a joint working group for post-Brexit trade and would step up an aviation security program. Erdogan said the two sides will increase cooperation in the defense industry, namely on the TF-X fighter project. Here's more.
An audience with the Turkish president. British Prime Minister Theresa May visiting Tayyip Erdogan, fresh from talks with US President Donald Trump on Friday. Her mission in Ankara to set the platform for a new post-Brexit trade relationship. Erdogan making positive noises on that front.
As two NATO countries, we always stand in solidarity and work in this manner. We discussed the joint steps we can take together, particularly in defense cooperation. I believe our cooperation will be very different from now on. We aim to increase the annual trade from $15.6 billion to $20 billion now.
Music to the Prime Minister's ears. But she also addressed Turkey's human rights after a failed coup last year. Since then, more than 100,000 people have been sacked or suspended and around 40,000 jailed pending trial.
I'm proud that the UK stood with you on the 15th of July last year in defence of your democracy. Now it is important that Turkey sustains that democracy by maintaining the rule of law and upholding its international human rights obligations, as the government has undertaken to do.
Meeting also with Turkey's Prime Minister, the pair announced an $125 million deal to develop Turkish fighter jets. Downing Street hoping that it will see Britain as a leading defence partner for Turkey.
When asked about the U.S. president's ban on people from certain countries, May said Washington is responsible for its policy on refugees. The British Prime Minister was speaking at a joint news conference with Turkish Prime Minister Binali Yildirim in Ankara. Yildirim said the two countries agreed to strengthen cooperation in the fight against terrorism. A total of 770 rescued migrants and a recovered dead body from leaky boats in the Mediterranean were taken to port in Sicily's Catania. The migrants were part of some 1,000 people the Italian Coast Guard said were saved, many of them off the coast of Libya. An Italian Coast Guard ship, the Spanish humanitarian group Pro Activa Open Arms, and a Caribbean registered supply vessel took part in the rescue operations. The sea crossing from Libya to Italy, operated by people smugglers based in Libya, is now the main route for migrants seeking better lives in Europe. Over 500,000 arrivals reached Italy in the past 3 years. Here at home, Royal Jordanian Airlines announced it will be increasing its flights to 14 key Arab and international destinations on its route network as of summer 2017. The network enhancement comes as part of RJ's effort to boost its presence in those cities, all while incorporating network consolidation throughout the high-demand summer season. The commercial strategy implemented by RJ is part of a plan underway seeking to increase revenue for the airline. Photographers and lava enthusiasts caught a unique glimpse of a spectacular lava spill on the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii. Lava videographer Mick Kalber described the lava flow as having recently advanced around half a kilometer. Photographers said the vent of the flow was very active with molten lava and that the lava flow streaming from it was moving in a continuous path towards the Pacific Ocean inside the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Sometimes the lava flows can be so expansive they pose a risk to Hawaiian communities and even burn down houses if they come into contact with each other. In this instance, authorities say communities are not at risk of coming into contact with the lava, leaving only a sight to behold. British actor and Oscar nominee Sir John Hurt has died at the age of 77 after a long battle with pancreatic cancer. Hurt was nominated for the Oscars for his star turn in The Elephant Man and his supporting role in Midnight Express. His roles in both of these two films won him Britain's top film award, the BAFTA. He also played a key role in the original 1979 sci-fi thriller Alien. The veteran British actor starred in more than 200 films and television series over a career spanning 6 decades. Hurt was working up until his death, recently playing a priest in Oscar-nominated film Jackie, which is the biopic of President John F. Kennedy's wife. China celebrated the beginning of the Year of the Rooster with lion dances and temple offerings, both believed by many to bring good luck. At a Beijing park, people gathered to watch traditional lion dances and other performances. Chinese Filipinos joined in the celebrations in Manila's Chinatown with prayers of peace. They were joined by Malaysian ethnic Chinese in Kuala Lumpur, who celebrated with incense burning and lion dance performances. The Chinese community in India's eastern Kolkata city also celebrated with prayers, colorful lanterns, and lion dance performances. The Lunar New Year is the first day in Chinese zodiac calendar and the most important event observed by Chinese people around the world. Traditionally, Chinese families begin the first day by greeting the elders in red costumes in exchange for a red envelope, followed by paying visits to temples and households of relatives and friends. Serena Williams defeated her sister Venus to win the Australian Open and a record 23rd Grand Slam title in the professional era. Pushing sentiments aside, Serena produced some of her best. After 10 years of competing in snowboarding World Cup events, Switzerland's Nevin Galmarini finally tasted glory at the men's parallel giant slalom event in Rogla, Slovenia. Galmarini claimed his maiden World Cup victory as he overcame Bulgaria's Radoslav Yankov in the final. Local favorite Jan Koshir went on to claim third at this event in the small final. In the women's event, Esther Ledečka of the Czech Republic extended her lead at the top of overall standings with victory in Rogla. She now leads by 900 points with 4 events to go. And finally, the weather forecast. Very cold conditions continue across the kingdom for the rest of tonight, with continued rainfall and a chance for snowfall over areas 1,200 meters above sea level. Frosty and foggy conditions prevail in most regions during the late hours as temperatures drop to nearly 0 Celsius. Tomorrow, a slight rise in temperatures is expected as the effect of the cold front begins to subside, but temperatures remain 4 to 5 degrees below seasonal average, with continued rain showers. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect relatively cold conditions tomorrow with northerly moderate winds and slightly high seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. Before we conclude, here's a quick recap of our top stories. Syrian government forces entered the village of Ain el-Fijeh, taking control of spring and pumping station that supplies most of the capital's water after a deal with rebel fighters. Donald Trump's sweeping ban on people seeking refuge in the United States and travelers from 7 Muslim-majority countries causes confusion and panic among travelers. And British Prime Minister Theresa May signs a $125 million defense equipment deal with Turkey, promising to push for more trade between the two NATO allies. With this, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Dana Abusham. Thanks for watching and have a good night.